Hello, I'm Sharon Krushel, author of Mother Earth, Boreal Beauty of the Peace Country. Emily Kyle from NAIT Centre for Boreal Research invited me to do a presentation as part of their Nature Series, which they offer to the community. I said, yes. The staff there have been brilliantly helpful to me in finding the ID for all these plants that I've been photographing in the Peace Country for years. The event took place at the Peace River Municipal Library, April 26, 2023, not long after Earth Day. We had just enjoyed a highly successful crocus hunt on Misery Mountain, led by Melanie Bird and Ryan O'Neill, where we found not only these bravely beautiful crocuses, but we also found that the hazelnut blossoms were out and the three-flowered avens plants had risen. It was perfect timing. Emily had offered the Mother Earth presentation on Zoom. However, the techno gremlins prevailed and that didn't work out. So we're going to use the video recording for the first part of the presentation so you can meet my baby Groot and hear him pronounce his blessing over you. The bulk of the presentation will be a narrated slideshow, followed by the performance of the Celtic song Come by the Hills with custom Peace River lyrics for the first verse. We're going to include the video of the questions and comments that followed the presentation, and my dog Milo will pronounce the final blessing. This is the story of our tribute to Mother Earth in the Peace Country, which I consider to be the Peace River watershed, which is hugely beautiful and biodiverse. Well, I am just deeply honored to be invited to this evening. And as I was trying to put together the presentation, I thought, what is it that I want to communicate tonight? There were so many things I wanted to say. How can I zero in on what I really want to communicate? And I came up with 3 things. I have a passion for sharing the healing power of wonder. The second is a whole village of people helped raise this Mother Earth book baby. And the third thing I'd like to talk about is that the adventure has greatly expanded my umwelt, my perception of the world. Come on in. Hi. Does anyone know who this character is? Baby Groot. Baby Groot. Upon the recommendation of our son, Denver, my husband Terry, who is sitting at the back there, Terry and I watched the Marvel Comics sci-fi movie Guardians of the Galaxy. And one of my favorite superheroes of all time is the tall, tree-like dude who says, I am Groot. I found Baby Groot at Audrey's Books in Edmonton when I was doing a book signing there in October. And we would like to begin this presentation by pronouncing a blessing over you. It's a blessing that was given to me by some tree planters that I photographed in the Chinchago Wilderness west of Manning. So go ahead, Baby Groot. I am Groot. Which means, may the forest be with you. All right, we'll just put Groot here. There we go. Okay. So, I write about Groot in my introduction to trees on page 22 of the Mother Earth book. Toward the end of the movie, when he and his friends are in grave danger, Groot uses his superpower to grow a multitude of leafy branches, forming a sphere of protection around the other Guardians. How many have seen Guardians of the Galaxy? Few people. Okay. So, outside of that sphere of strength and greenery, violence is raging, fire, things crashing, And inside, the guardians are together in safety, and there are fireflies magically dancing about. I recently discovered that what I had suspected all along, and that is that trees and forests have superpowers. It wasn't until I listened to the audiobook, The Hidden Life of Trees by a German forester named Peter Wohlleben, I think that's how you pronounce it, that the fireflies truly lit up for me. Trees are truly wonderful, and they are more like humans than I could ever have imagined. If you haven't read that book, The Hidden Life of Trees, it really is quite an eye-opener. So how do you capture and share the healing power of wonder? I don't know. But I teamed up with a group of precious people to give it our best shot. So, in November 2021, after 2 years of fascinating collaboration with 31 fabulous photographers, a number of knowledgeable naturalists, and some gracious Indigenous language speakers, and after countless hours learning and working with a program called Adobe InDesign, we received the first printing of a book with a very long title. Mother Earth, Boreal Beauty of the Peace Country, with Flora, Fauna, and Fungi ID, including Latin, French, Beaver, and Cree. Honestly, I never intended to publish a book, and such a big book. This preponderous pandemic project really just kind of happened to me. A seed was planted, and it sprouted legs and took on a life of its own. In the acknowledgements at the end of the book, I acknowledge that my dogs got me into this. This is our first dog, Ben, with our children, Jessie in Denver, and our current dog, Milo the Mischievous, part Border Collie and part Bernese Mountain Dog. Both dogs have insisted on an off-leash hike in the Peace River Hills every day, regardless of the weather. This is why I have pictures of everything from wild blue flax in the rain to Peace River -40. There's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. My quest for mental health got me into this. I encountered a major struggle with depression many years ago. Fortunately, at about the same time, I had been organizing and attending photography classes taught by a very dear artist friend, Randall Weeb from Rosebud. I was learning about light and shadow, composition and depth of field, and I would go hiking in the hills with our dog Ben, and I would see in the shade of the aspen trees a crocus catching a sunbeam streaming down through the canopy. And I felt nudged, compelled to capture this moment of discovery so that I could share it. I remembered the words of my mental health therapist, Sharon, you need to look for the pieces of light in your life. And I began to realize that my forest photography had become my therapy. The sense of wonder really does have healing powers. Now, having said this, there are still days when I can spend an entire 40-minute hike caught up in the storm in my brain, either ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. However, often I'll hear a chickadee sing, "Hey, sweetie," and this beautiful sound will bring me back to the present moment. And I'll take a deep breath and touch whatever trees or bushes are reaching out from either side of the path I'm on, and just be where I am, and determined to live in the moment with compassion for myself and others. Peace Players also got me into this by developing my imagination and a desire for storytelling. In 2008, I played the part of the morally ambivalent fairy Morgan Le Fay in the Peace Players production of Camelot. I was bribed with chocolate by the wicked Mordred to build a wall around King Arthur in my enchanted forest, with the help of my beautiful tree nymphs. The following summer, I invited Geneva Seaton, one of the tree nymphs, to dress in my Morgan Le Fay costume and come out to my enchanted aspen forest north of Peace River for a photo shoot. And Queen Guinevere, Darylyn Bastel, came too. I didn't know what I was going to do with the photos, but their images have enchanted the Mother Earth book. The Alberta Native Plant Council got me into this. In August of 2019, Melanie Bird, facilitator for the Peace River Plant Study Group, reached out to the Peace River Art Club, inviting us to participate in their exhibit at the Peace River Library Gallery, a celebration of native plants around the Peace region. It was inspiring for me to finally find a group of plant nerds to share my enthusiasm and help me identify the myriad of wildflowers, blossoms, and berries I'd been photographing all these years. To my delight, I discovered that when I learn the name of a wildflower, I feel like I've met a new friend. What a mind-expanding, soul-enriching experience to make friends of both Peace River plant nerds and Peace River plants. These flowers are called Northern Fairy Candelabra. Isn't that just a beautiful name for such a dainty little flower? I found some other dainty little white flowers and discovered their name is bastard toadflax. I'm not sure what happened there. Terry says maybe the plant naming people should have taken a break earlier. I'm sure these flowers prefer to go by their Latin name, Commandra umbellata. Ah, much better. The Peace River Art Club got me into this. A couple of months after the Plants of the Peace exhibit, the Peace River Art Club was choosing a theme for our January show in the gallery upstairs here in the library. And Diane Ireland suggested Mother Earth. I said, yes, and I'll design the poster. I had way too many images to frame, so I decided to create a Vistaprint photo book as a one-off exhibit piece with 120 pages of my favorite nature photos. With my newfound knowledge and connections, I was able to include the common names for most of the plants as well as the animals. And the book came in the mail just in time for the opening reception. It was a great event with such a variety of art styles and pottery, and we had live music by Marty O'Byrne, and lots of people came. And everyone I talked to who saw this original Mother Earth book wanted to buy a copy. But the book cost $150 for a Vistaprint one-off. So I decided to look into having the book published to see if the price per copy would be more reasonable. I love collaboration. We are far greater than the sum of our parts or pictures. I remember thinking, I wish I had gotten a photo of that lynx I saw in the hills. I can't publish a Mother Earth book of the piece without a photo of a grizzly bear, and I don't want to get close enough to a cougar to take its portrait. So I started collaborating with fellow photographers. What fun to see the species and landscapes of the Peace Country through their lenses, from their perspectives and their styles and their neck of the woods. Here are some of the first photographers who graciously entrusted me with their images. Colin Ruxton from Wembley, Wendy Parkin from Peace River, Ron Marceau, who farms on the edge of the Smoky River Valley, Paul Lavoie from Peace River, Miep Bergerjon from Fort St. John, Lyle Fullerton, Trina Moyles, Stuart Barr, and Amanda Manette from Peace River, Garrett McKen, who is now in Edmonton, but I met him at the Peace River Plant Group meeting, Jeff Burke from Grand Prairie, Bethany Earle, and Wanda Watts from Peace River. I soon found myself on an obsessive-compulsive quest to get fabulous photos of as many species as I could, and I reached out to more photographers. Ken Dyes from Fairview, Tyrell Peranto, Linda Moyles, and Patience Darling from Peace River, Maurice Chenard from Donnelly, who photographed a piebald moose, Gord and Courtney Hughes, I call Courtney our grizzly bear guru, James and Andrew Weeb from Lacrete, Donna Branham and Bailey Robinson from Peace River, Stephen Simpson from Fort Vermilion, and Mykola Todorov, a tree planter from Montreal who's originally from Ukraine. Some guest photographers from further south of the Peace Country include Marcia Hayward from Cold Lake with her botanical paintings, Klaus Peters, formerly from Grand Prairie, Jason Headley, the bat photographer, Ken Caldwell with his funny bear photos, Dave Hobson, who photographed the cougar, Gwen Tomlin, photographed the boreal owl, Kirsten Knuth, who had a cute little ermine photo I wanted, and George Vandenberg with his photo of a cliff swallow in flight. I felt like I'd been given a treasure chest full of jewels with which to create art, and the book grew and grew and grew to over 1,200 photos, 387 species, 288 pages, and it weighs 5.5 pounds. We still didn't get all the species, of course, but I had to quit before the book got too big for children and seniors to carry. The first half of the book resembles my original Mother Earth book, featuring mostly flora, fungi, the 4 seasons, birds, bugs, and butterflies. The second half is primarily the collaboration with other photographers. I had terabytes of plant photos, but I was grateful to meet Garrett McCann at a Peace River Plant Group meeting, and he willingly offered his images of wild orchids of the Peace. My favorite is the Calypso orchid. Oh, I hope I get to see one in the wild someday. So if any of you know where they are, I'll give you a free book if you show me. I'm also deeply grateful to the wildlife specialist who helped me ensure we got the facts straight. Dave Moyles, caribou researcher, is featured in his daughter Trina's award-winning article called Herd Memory. Lyle Fullerton and Natalka Melnicki at Environment and Parks offered information on the wood bison in the Chinchaga Wilderness. I got to meet Bat Girl and Cougar Guy, Lisa Wilkinson and Dave Hobson, when they were in Peace River conducting bat research last summer. Through Dave, I met Dr. Margot Pybus, who edited our wildlife sections. And through the mycological and lepidopterist Facebook groups, I discovered the mushroom and butterfly specialist, Ken Dyes, in Fairview. I've been privileged to go on a couple of mushroom foraging expeditions with him and fry the findings in butter. What's in a name? Let's stop for a game. My Cree name is Masqua. My beaver name is Sus. My French name is Ours Noir. Do you know what I am? Yes, black bear. But, as you can see, says the cinnamon cub, we're not all black. We created a rhyming riddle scavenger hunt for some of the school classes that toured the Mother Earth photography exhibit in the Dawson Creek, Grand Prairie, and Fairview art galleries. And these are a few of the questions. In the beaver language, my name means bush cat. I'm smaller than a cougar, but bigger than a house cat. I was a kitten, but we kittens grow and develop big paws for walking on snow. What kind of cool cat am I? Yes, a Canada lynx. They do indeed have big paws, and the snowshoe hares they chase also have size large feet. I have wings, but I'm not a bird. I'm not a butterfly, and I'm not a bee. My babies are called flying pups, for I am a mammal, you see. What am I? A bat. The scientific name is Chiroptera, which is Greek for hand wing, and there are 5 species of bats in the Peace Country. And here's one courtesy of our son Denver. If a baby goose is a gosling, is a baby moose a mosling?
I'm fascinated with names and languages and views from various cultures. I was happy to be able to include the taxonomical names for all of the species in Latin. My favorite flower is Pulsatilla nataliana. I just think that's so cool. Then I thought, I'd love to include the Cree words too. And Wendy Goulet told me about the Cree language app you can get on your phone. Kitaskinou Tribal Council Education Authority, Elders Speak. You can look up a word and see it in Cree and hear one of the elders say the word. I love their word for grizzly bear, Mistahaya, and their word for chickadee, Pichikisisis. Charlene Noski with the Holy Family School Division said her two sisters from Loon River, Nancy and Evelyn, helped create the app, and all three of them were my consultants for this project. Carson Murphy at the Peace River Museum said, if you're going to include the Cree, you need to include the beaver, because they were here first. I didn't know that. So I went to Beaver First Nation near High Level to meet with some of their elders and helpers, Nevada Kipling and Leah Lizotte. Here's Mary Frances. I was able to create a photo exhibit with some of the beaver names she gave me for the species. This is Eddie Pierrot and Clarence Fournier. I was invited to attend their Beaver First Nation Culture Camp, which was a BYO tent event in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and I got to see how to flesh a moose hide. Then I thought, well, I should really include the French names too, because it was the amazing French voyageurs who paddled upstream on the Peace River for the Scottish explorer Sir Alexander Mackenzie, so he could eventually write his name on a rock on the west coast. By the way, did you know the Peace River is called the Peace River because the Beaver and the Cree made a peace agreement at a place that's now called Peace Point, which is east of Fort Vermilion. And Sir Alexander Mackenzie wrote about it in his journal, and the story is on page 138 of the Mother Earth book, including photos of Peace Point, where the Beaver and Cree met to smoke the pipe for peace. Now, back to the French. So, to include the French names for species of the Peace Country, I consulted with our children's French immersion teacher, Linda LeBay, and she put me in touch with Maurice Simon. And I found out that the French name for robin is Merle d'Amérique. My mother's name was Merle, which I always thought was a rather odd name, and she didn't know why she was named Merle. But now, with this new insight, when I hear a robin sing, I think of my mom. We've talked about the wonder and the village. Let's move on to expanding our Umwelt, how we see the world. Move yourself was Randall's first piece of advice when teaching the artistry of photography. Look at your subject matter from different perspectives. And this has become my philosophy of life. Nurture your childlike curiosity. Find and show a view people don't often see. The sun shining on a wild rose is a beautiful thing. When I move myself to the background, I discover the glory of the sun shining through it. Here are some little brown mushrooms. I wonder, if I get down on my belly, would these look like big umbrellas from the perspective of an ant or a little fairy? I spend a lot of time lying on my belly on the ground. I'm afraid my last words will be, help, I got down to take a picture and I can't get up. That actually happened to me once when I was trying to photograph the underside of a polypore on the side of a birch tree. I was surrounded by fallen logs and rose bushes. And the words of Owl from Winnie the Pooh came to me, you are a wedged bear in a great tightness. Here's a great spangled fritillary and the flip side of a fritillary. Fireweed, the boreal flower of hope, is a welcome sight from the side. It's also quite an interesting view from the top, and that's a police car moth. Here's an itty-bitty gossamer-winged butterfly. Their wingspan is only about an inch, and their wings are usually only open when they're flying. But this one posed and even did a little twirl on a rock for me. We focus on the beauty of its wings, but I'm curious to see her face to face. I used to think moss was just green stuff that grew on trees, mostly on the north side. It all kind of looked the same to me. And then I looked more closely at some moss on a fallen log. And Melanie Bird and Ryan O'Neill expanded my view of the world by inviting me to a black spruce bog down North Harmon Valley Road. How many kinds of moss can there be? I love the knight's plume. It really does look like a knight's plume. I wonder what big red stem moss looks like through a macro lens. Then we went to a fen. A fen is a place where the water is flowing through, whereas a bog is just soggy. I made the mistake of lying on my back in a bog to take a picture of the black spruce canopy. The soft moss bed didn't look that wet. Soggy Bottom Boys, the band in the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, came to mind. Next time I'll bring rain pants. So in this fen where the water runs through, we saw a whole different set of mosses with a different set of superpowers, including sphagnum moss photosynthesizing underwater, creating bubbles of oxygen. Amazing. And then I read the book Melanie recommended, Gathering Moss by Robin Wall Kimmerer. If you have trouble getting to sleep at night, just listen to her audiobook. And I found out that some mosses can absorb 20 times their weight in water. No wonder Mary Frances said they used moss to make the first super absorbent disposable diapers. Another way I've been able to move myself to get a different perspective is in my husband's airplane. Terry, who is plane crazy, as my mother said, spent 15 years building a 2-seater experimental aircraft powered with a Subaru engine, which has given me a bird's eye view of the land. I can see my house from here. There's the trail that goes up past the cemetery, and there are the hills where I take most of my photos. I had heard about the chutes east of Fort Vermilion on the Peace River, but I'd never even seen pictures of them. So I asked a friend to take me up in his Super Cub so I could open the door to get a clear shot of the widest waterfall in North America. And there are the rapids in the distance. The waterfall over the limestone step looks like only a ripple from the air. But some lads from Lacrete showed me their view of Vermilion Falls from their boat on the Peace River. Wow! From this perspective, I can see why the legendary D.A. Thomas steamboat had to stop before reaching this place on the mighty Peace. So what is this Umwelt? And why is it my new favorite word? I was listening to an audiobook called Love Matters More, and the author, Jared Baez, introduced me to this intriguing word. Umwelt is a German word used to describe the world as it is experienced by a particular organism, whether it's a microbe, a whale, a bat, or a professor of theology. The worlds they perceive, their Umwelten, are all different. The Umwelt of a palm tree growing up in Phoenix, Arizona would be vastly different from the Umwelt of a baby tamarack tree in a boreal bog. I only know this is a baby tamarack tree because Melanie and Ryan told me. The way a jumping spider sees the world would be different from a snowy owl's perspective of reality. This very hungry caterpillar will be expanding its Umwelt tremendously when it metamorphoses into a Canadian tiger swallowtail butterfly. Did you know these butterflies can be found in every province and territory in Canada? Can we be inspired to move ourselves, to see another perspective, and expand our Umwelt? Isn't that what the adventure of life is about? Expanding our Umwelt? Ron Marceau, one of our contributing photographers, signs his autograph with the exhortation, "Stay curious, stay wild." My curious little grandson's Umwelt, growing up in Quebec, will be different from mine, having grown up on a pig farm in central Alberta. But we recently stepped into each other's worlds and expanded one another's Umwelten. When my curiosity is urging me to come out to play, I try to look at the world from the perspective of the living things with whom we share Mother Earth. What's it like to be a bee? Or a spring crocus being visited by a bee? When it's -40, most of us see the insides of our warm dwellings. But the raven has a very different Umwelt. My husband observed this one from our kitchen window, sitting on the light sensor to trick the lamp into coming on during the day to keep its butt warm. This increased our awareness and respect for its clever ways of dealing with its personal, or I guess you'd say ravenal, reality. Have you ever wondered how the ruffed grouse views the world while beating his heart out trying to attract a mate in spring? At first I thought, what a bizarre mating behavior. And then I considered some of the courting rituals of Homo sapiens. Maybe not so bizarre. Even within the same species as Homo sapiens, our Umwelten has similarities and differences. In my research for the Mother Earth book, I have come to see that the beaver people who inhabited the Peace River watershed before the Cree and Europeans arrived have their own unique Umwelt. For example, we see the rainbow as a function of the rain. But their word for this arc of every color is satlule, which translates sun rope. The beaver word for spring, doe, means a hungry time. Indeed, they would have been running out of their winter stores. We don't think of that in a world where we have grocery stores. We just say, oh, the crocuses are blooming, the robins are singing, the air doesn't hurt my face anymore. This new perspective on spring as a hungry time inspires in me gratitude for grocery stores and the people who work there, and the farmers, and everyone who works to ensure we have access to food through all the seasons, especially here in the north. We even have oranges in the middle of winter. What we call a wild strawberry, the beaver people call ija. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which means little heart. Their word for mushrooms literally means muskeg ears. Considering all that goes on in the world of fungi underground, this is a brilliant name. Looking at another culture and Umwelt, the Cree word for northern lights translates as dancing stars. There was a woman named Vero from France who came hiking with me in the Peace River Hills. We heard the familiar, "Hey, sweetie." And I said, "That's a chickadee." And she said they call them mes anges, which means my angels. She said her husband is a trucker and is away a lot, but her angels are always with her. I have learned so much through this Mother Earth adventure, and my sense of wonder just keeps growing. For me, and I think for many nature photographers and naturalists, sharing the wonder doubles the delight. I've created a Mother Earth exhibit which has been on display at the Grand Prairie Centre for Creative Arts, the Dawson Creek Art Gallery, Peace Gallery North in Fort St. John, the Fairview Fine Arts Centre, the Grand Prairie Museum for the past 5 months, and has just now come home to the Peace River Art Hub. At the opening receptions for these exhibits and at presentations to school classes, I have performed this Peace River version of an Irish song, Come by the Hills. It was recorded by Canadian artist and harpist Lorena McKennett, who grew up in Terry's hometown of Morden, Manitoba. The first verse refers to where the peaks reach the sky and the lochs reach the sea. So I composed a Peace River version with bison, fireweed, and a river that runs wide. I hope you enjoy it.
Come by the hills to a land where wonder abounds, where wild bison roam and the fireweed blossoms all round, where the river runs wide and the aspens turn gold in the sun, and the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Come by the hills to the land where life is a song. Stand where the birds fill the air with their joy all day long, where the trees sway in time, and even the wind sings in tune, and cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Come by the hills to the land where legend remains, stories of old, the hearts that make it come again, where the past has been lost and the future is still to be won, and the cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. And cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, but congratulations. That's an amazing book. And sorry with it. You're doing amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's it's been a real pleasure. Sometimes I look at the 7 tons of Mother Earth books in the walls at the art hub. I think, oh my word, what have I done? But, I'm hoping to get them, we're offering them for a special price to schools. I'd really like to get them into the hands of our youth, and so they can develop their curiosity about Mother Earth. There are 2 schools in Grand Prairie who purchased a book for each classroom, the Montessori, Parkside Montessori, and Swanhaven schools, and they said the kids just love them. And so yeah, I'm hoping to do presentations in the schools around here to just raise people's
They
awareness.
should be in the schools here because it's right in our
Yes,
forest, right?
exactly,
It's stuff right
exactly.
here.
Yeah, I'm actually meeting with Danny Weirden and Adam Murray and Holly Crumpton in the near future to try to get that worked out. So yeah. So anybody else have any questions or questions for our plant people here? Yes, hi.
More a question for you, Sharon.
Okay.
When did you get the notion to include multilingual identification of the different species?
Oh, well, Wendy Goulet and Dennis Whitford have sometimes asked me to come and photograph the Peace River powwow. And so just getting to know them better, and Dennis and Jean Whitford used to come to our church, the Anglican Cathedral, and just getting to know them. And also I got to know a woman, I was involved in the Canadian Badlands Passion Play for 5 years. I would go, well actually Randall Lee, the photography teacher, he's an artist in every direction. He was their original playwright, he's played Jesus and Judas, and anyway, he was their artistic director one year, and he invited me down to come sing in the choir. And it's kind of a long story, but this one woman who played the bleeding woman who Jesus healed, her name is Helen Northcott. She lives in Cold Lake, and I got to know her. She's just a beautiful, beautiful woman. She was horribly abused in residential schools, sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and she said that every time she was healed by Jesus in this passion play, she felt like another layer of forgiveness and healing happened in her own life, and we spent a lot of time together in the campsite. It was a BYO tent event for me. They had more room, but anyway, we would spend a lot of time around the campfire and just got to know her and just got to understand how important that language connection is. She said that they were beaten if they spoke their own language to their own siblings. And you hear about these horrible atrocities and think, well, what can I do? I wasn't there. But what can I do toward reconciliation? Is there anything I can do? And so it just, sometimes I feel nudged to do certain things. And I was just so grateful. People were willing to share their beautiful language with me, and so that was one word.
I think that's a very
What's that?
Children's book.
Oh, it is a children's book.
Like a small.
Yeah, that they can lift. Yeah, actually, people have said to me, "What's your next project?" And I said, "It's kind of like asking a woman who just had a baby." After I saw the 7 times of the Earth books, I'll think about it.
There's going to be an after that?
There's going to be an after that, yeah. No, I've been so grateful for the people who've supported this project. We managed to pre-sell 400 copies of this book before the first printing, and otherwise, to do it. So, Northern Sunrise County bought 100 copies, which was just so appreciated, and so it's been really good, and people have given really good encouragement and comments, and so if you know people who might want a book, take as many of these postcards as you want, because the information's on the back. So hand them out to as many people as you want. So I would like to end with a blessing from our dog Milo. May you find yourself in a place of happiness today, and share your joy with those who have press it again. So this is my little grandson. I just spent 2 weeks with him in Quebec, and he is one curious little guy, I'll tell you. He would say something in French, and I would say, "Je ne comprends pas." And I said, "Can you say it in English?" And he would say, "In English." He did teach me some French, and I taught him some English. All right, so these next slides are some of the flowers that I have heard would work well in your garden. So this is blue-eyed grass.
It presses well too.
Yeah. And giant hyssop, and wild blue flax, and Canada anemone. I think we found seeds for those when we were doing the crocus hunt on Misery Mountain. Yeah, and Ryan said you can use those seeds to grow the plant. We can ask him what the procedure is. I actually am no good with plants at all. That's why I just photograph the ones that God grows. And then pink, the cut-leaved anemone, and that's bergamot, which really smells nice, and goldenrod, and smoothly vein, otherwise known as an aster. Next slide.
Is that bergamot like tea?
I think it's the same thing, yeah. Yeah.
That's what they used for that tea party at Gloucester Tea. I mean, not what they used, but they used it instead of tea because there was no tea. So they used the dried leaves of the bergamot. Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing that we found I might have ADHD. I had a T-shirt that said "easily distract." Anyway, when we were out in the bog, we found lots of Labrador tea. Yeah, you can use that to make tea. And the co-op actually sells it. It's harvested in northern Saskatchewan. Yeah, that was a little off. Anyway, so I love these flowers, 3-flowered aglans. And apparently they grow well in the garden. Next. And paintbrush, purple paintbrush and red paintbrush. And I think that's it. Oh, and for the second edition of the book, it's mostly the same as the first edition. If you got the first edition and you want these pages to print off and put in the back of your book, just let me know. And so Stephen Simpson hiked in to get this picture of the falls. Yeah, you know him? Yeah. Of course. Yes. And I found a few other, this was the green alder I found on a hike that Brian led for northern Sunrise County. And the western jewelweed I found out at La Cardinal, and the bristly black currants I found on a hike on a mushroom foraging expedition. And Elliot we found in our backyard. And Ron Marceau got that photo. I thought, So the second edition is rated PG. Anyway, thank you everyone so much for coming. And do sign up and pick up some cards, and I'll just put this up so that it's not in the way. And what time is it? Is it 8 o'clock yet? 7:30. 7:30, okay. So I think there are some snacks and help yourself. The cards, I brought lots. And there's also, these are Canadian wildflowers. There's one flower in here that we don't have in Peace Country, and that's the trillium. I don't think we have trillium blue.
I think that's this.
Yeah, so this is Canadian wildflowers, but most of them were photographed in Peace Country. And this is my Enchanted Forest card, and there's a little story on the back, and lots of mushrooms and different things. So if you would like to have one of each of those for yourself, and if you want to buy a book, let me know. I've got 2 cases, and I have another case. So I would like to wear. Oh, would you? Okay. Okay. Thank you. I like my card. Yes. Oh, thank you. And thanks for organizing this.
Mel and Ryan have really wanted to come tonight. And they very collaborated with me on the book. And I hope everyone else enjoyed the presentation. It was one of the first books that I read that sparked my interest in plants in the Peace Country, because I'm not from here. So thanks for reading it.
Okay. Thank you. So enjoy the refreshments and yeah, just talk amongst yourselves as plant lovers. Nature lovers, yeah, thank you. I was afraid I'd go over, so I probably talked to you too fast. But you're Where did we? Oh, yeah, I can just do that right here. Do you want me to autograph it to you? Of course. Okay. All right. I forgot. There's a new